I know that a big white wedding dress would have been very obvious for a movie about a wedding, but it doesn't change the fact that I still would have liked to see one. Hi there, my name is Tessa, and as most of you know, I love film and fashion. So when the two intersect, I couldn't be happier. That's why no matter how popular it gets, I'm a sucker for method dressing, a trend in Hollywood which sees celebrities dress up in outfits related to the movie that they're promoting. Some of these attempts have been more subtle, others have been more on the nose, but the big question is, who method dressed the best? Just off screen, I have my laptop, and I've made a little list with every celebrity method dressing example that I could think of, and I really hope that I'm not missing any. And I have it set up so that I can rank them in 5 different categories, from award-winning, which is the best, to get a new stylist, which is the worst. But before I begin, let's get a few disclaimers out of the way first, because that's just the state of the internet nowadays. Firstly, this entire video is all in good fun, so please don't take it too seriously if I'm a little bit snarky, because a reminder, this is meant to be entertaining for you and for me. Also, in order for a celebrity to be included, they had to have multiple on-theme looks, not just 1 or 2 outfits here or there. And I'm also judging these not just on how much I like the outfit, but also how it relates to the movie that's being promoted. Because I'm sure some people will disagree with my ranking, I did put a link to the tier list in the description, so please have at it. I'm gonna start off with Madonna for Evita, which I believe is the first ever instance of a full method dressing press run, which makes a lot of sense considering she's originally a singer and not an actor, and most musicians do a sort of themed look when they're rolling out a new album or a new project. She was obviously inspired by the character that she plays, Eva Peron, and you can definitely see the 1940s, 1950s silhouette. She wore a lot of suit sets, fur coats, and also like little dainty florals. She also, for more formal events, whipped out full like hats and headdresses, which I thought was a lot of fun. Occasionally, some of these looks could go in a slightly matronly direction almost, mostly because of how on the nose they were to mid-century styling. And I feel like most of the time I liked individual pieces more than the entire look. So I think I'm gonna put it in the second tier category, which is risks were taken, fun was had. Next is FKA Twigs for The Crow, which I believe was styled by Louis Sylvester. I don't know if there's another human being on this planet who could pull off this specific hairstyle as well as she did. There's a very gothic cyberpunk thing happening with this, which makes sense considering the storyline of The Crow. She opted for a lot of neutral colors as well as like darker shades like black, gray, taupe, tan, etc. Twigs has a pretty experimental style philosophy in general, so compared to what she usually wears, this isn't as adventurous as I would expect from her. And while it might have been more on the nose, I think I would have loved to have seen feathers or barbed wire or something like that. I think for now, I'm gonna put this in the perfectly passable category. Next is Lady Gaga for Joker Folie à Deux. When she first started this press tour, she was going in more of an old Hollywood glam direction, very similar to how she dressed when she was promoting A Star is Born. And I can kind of understand the mindset behind it. She wanted to be taken seriously by the industry since she was transitioning from pop star to movie star. But these early looks for Joker feel a little bit old, whereas I feel like the eventual pivot that they took is very fun and Gen Z and youthful, which does make a lot of sense considering it was styled by Chloe and Chanel Delgadillo, who also work with people like Olivia Rodrigo and Tate McRae, so they naturally have a more youthful take on styling. These looks were very clowncore kinderhorror, which I loved. I loved the ruffs, I love the Harlequin print, and I really enjoyed the giant platform shoes. And I also think that the red mullet was a fun way to tie into the movie and also just gave her a slightly different look than I usually expect from her. It definitely doesn't blend into any of her other eras, which I think is a good thing. My only issue is that they're not really that eye-catching, and I do wish that there were even more clown and Joker references. So I feel like I'm still gonna put this in perfectly passable. Next is Drew Barrymore in Whip It. The dip dye is so of its time, especially how like harsh and not blended in it is. But I feel like the whole direction of her press tour was very 80s inspired, but like not cool 80s, which I felt tied into the movie's kind of like small town rebel kind of vibes. My favorite look of the entire press run was hands down the yellow Alexander McQueen dress. It just looks like a really cool like tattoo almost, the way that it like seamlessly blends into her skin. The rest of the outfits don't really do it for me, and there's not really that many of them. It was a pretty short-lived method dressing press tour, and I just feel like some of these outfits are kind of ugly. I'm gonna put this in the hang it back up category. Next is Elle Fanning from Maleficent. I forgot to mention it earlier, but I am combining all sequels into one kind of like method dressing project and ranking them as like a total unit. I know some people aren't gonna love that, but that's what I'm doing. I think when she was doing this press tour, she was only like 16 years old. And I just feel like her and her stylist, Samantha McMillan, just have a really, really great working relationship, which they still have to this day. I think everything works really well. I love the pastel colors, the really floaty silhouettes. It definitely makes her look like a fairy princess, which makes sense for the direction of the story. Both of the press runs had really great looks. My favorites are probably the blue premiere dress for the first Maleficent movie, and then the green Gucci gown for the second that had like the little blood drops, just so brilliant. I legitimately think that the only reason I would want Maleficent 3 is just so Elle Fanning can go on another method dressing press run. I'm gonna put this in award winning. Next is Angelina Jolie, also for Maleficent. It's honestly pretty similar to her usual style. They're just a little bit more intentional with the color palette and the silhouettes, so broad shoulders, bird motifs, and just a lot of black. I think that she looked spectacular, but nothing is really catching my eye. So I think I'm gonna put it in hang it back up. Next is Lily James for Cinderella. Definitely not as well done as Elle's Disney princess moments. There's a lot of blue and white and pink to tie into like the characters' outfits, but it does make for a kind of boring color palette. These press looks were styled by Rebecca Corbin-Murray, and I feel like she didn't really know what to do with her. So she just put her in a fancy dress with no accessories and kind of called it a day. I'm going to put this in hang it up. Next is Naomi Scott for Aladdin. At the time, there wasn't a name for method dressing yet, but she made it very clear in interviews that she was dressing in outfits that were inspired by the characters. So you can see some Jafar, Iago, Aladdin, Genie, and Jasmine kind of like sprinkled in there, but honestly, none of them really look that good. I don't love late 2010s fashion in general, mostly because of how prevalent athleisure was. And I feel like you can really see that trend in her outfits at the time. They just read as too casual and a little bit cheap. I'm gonna put this in get a new stylist. Next is Halle Bailey for The Little Mermaid, styled by Nikki Good. I actually think that her press outfits were one of the highlights of the live action Little Mermaid. They really leaned into like the mermaid and ocean vibes, which definitely has a lot of potential. And I love all the sequins and the shiny fabrics, but I do feel like it doesn't really read as specific to Ariel. It's just kind of like generic ocean sea creature. I didn't love all of the looks, mostly because I felt like the fit was a little bit off, but at the time they were trying to hide her baby bump, so I feel like that might have had something to do with it. I'm gonna put this in risks were taken. Next is Rachel Zegler for Snow White. I honestly have a lot of empathy for Rachel for this press run because Disney just fed her to the wolves because they were just so afraid of that nonsense like woke backlash. So they didn't really give her any worthwhile appearances. And I feel like that really impacted how much she could get dressed up. The outfits that she did have were really cute. They kind of stuck to this red, white, and blue color palette. Thankfully, none of that neon highlighter yellow. There's a lot of like princessy silhouettes, a lot of corsets, a lot of like puffed ball gown skirts, which I thought was really cute. I wouldn't say that any of the looks are bad, but they're not really inventive. But I'll cut her stylist, Sarah Slutsky, some slack because she definitely didn't have access to all of the resources that she probably should have. I'm gonna put this in perfectly passable, but they definitely had potential for more. Next is Greta Lee for Toy Story 5. This was styled by Danielle Goldberg, who works with a lot of quirky girls, and I like that she brought some high fashion to the Toy Story universe. I still haven't seen the movie, so I don't know if there are specific references to her character, but I like the primary colors and the different shapes. It's very pre-K, which makes sense because, you know, it's a movie about toys. None of the looks are bad, but they do feel kind of safe. And I will say, this one Dior outfit is probably one of the ugliest things I've seen in a very long time. I'm gonna put this in perfectly passable. Next is Greta Lee for Tron Ares. It's definitely CEO chic with a lot of suits and dark colors and structured silhouettes. It makes sense for her character in Tron, but it isn't very eye-catching or interesting. And in all honesty, if I saw these looks kind of removed from the context of this video, I wouldn't even be able to guess what movie she was promoting. So I think I'm going to put this in Hang It Up. Next is Jodie Turner-Smith, also for Tron Ares. Now this is having fun with the Tron IP. I love all the references to technology, even if they are a little bit obvious, but come on, that circuit board dress is so cool. I also like all of the references to her character's allegiances in the movie. So there's a lot of red and black, and like the lines are also a cool, fun reference. This was styled by Law Roach, and honestly, when he isn't working with Zendaya, I feel like he's not great. But I think that this is actually really, really well done, to the point where I would argue that it's too good for such a shitty movie. I'm gonna put this in award winning. Next is Brie Larson for Captain Marvel. I would not have been able to guess that she is the same stylist as Elle Fanning because none of these looks work for her. It's very 2010s era girl power with pantsuits and the capes and the shiny fabric, and honestly it just looks a little bit cheap. I'm gonna put this in Get a New Stylist. Next is Dakota Johnson for Madame Web. This was styled by Kate Young, who, if you're familiar with, has a pretty rough track record. So all things considered, this isn't terrible, but it does just feel like outfits Dakota Johnson would wear in the day-to-day. The only thing that kind of makes it Madame Webby is all of the black and the red, and honestly, she doesn't even have that many spider motifs. I do love a 1970s disco aesthetic, and I would probably wear a lot of these looks myself, but they don't really get me excited for the movie or the role. It just feels very generic, which I think you could argue is also the case for the movie. So even though I like the outfits, they're not really doing the job they're supposed to be doing. So I'm going to put this in Hang It Up. Next is Jenna Ortega for Wednesday. This was styled by Enrique Melendez, who's been working with her since her Disney Channel days. And I really love how long the stylist-client relationship seems to last. For the first season, she was definitely still transitioning into stardom, so they didn't have a huge budget to go crazy with. And I feel like all of the looks are very referential to the character. A lot of black, a lot of white, and a lot of collars. It's very gothic light, where there's like leather and lace, but they aren't going crazy. And overall, she still looks very cute and young. My favorite is probably what she wore to the Met Gala, which was actually one of my favorite looks that year. For the second season, they went in a much more high fashion direction. where everything is just a little bit more elevated and thought out. So she has the makeup, the hair, the accessories, and then obviously the cool, funky outfit. I honestly loved all of her looks while promoting the second season. They aren't necessarily specific to her character, but they very much fit into that kind of weird supernatural Wednesday world. I actually like the second season looks so much that it's going to push all of Wednesday into award winning. Next is Jenna Ortega for Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice, these outfits were honestly the only reason I even knew Beetlejuice 2 was coming out, so the method dressing served its purpose. I loved the more casual looks, which were referencing the original characters, because they still felt wearable but also nostalgic, which is a tough line to walk. They went more artsy and formal for the red carpet premieres, and these looks were okay. I think my biggest issue with this press run is just that it felt like there was a lot of overlap with the first season of Wednesday, which does knock a few points off for me, but I'm still going to put it in perfectly passable. Next is Zendaya for The Greatest Showman. This was her first full method dressing movie, and I just think that it was brilliant. Because even though she was playing a supporting character, all of her cool, crazy outfits forced the conversation to come to her. It's very ringmaster core with all of the suits and all of the bright colors. I wasn't a huge fan of the red carpet dresses, except for the butterfly dress, which is honestly one of my favorite looks of hers, period. I'm gonna put this in risks were taken. Next is Zendaya for the entire Spider-Man franchise. So her time with Spider-Man spans a total of 10 years, but for the first movie, Homecoming, they didn't even try to method dress, and they really only got into it in 2021 for No Way Home, which did have a few really good red carpet looks. Brand New Day this year was hands down her biggest Spider-Man press run, and I wouldn't be surprised if method dressing was actually in her Marvel contract. I loved the archive Galliano and Armani dresses, but honestly, the rest of the looks are a little bit forgettable. So I think combining all of her Spider-Man method dressing, I'm just gonna put it in perfectly passable. Next is Zendaya for Challengers. I love this preppy, sporty, girly direction. It's just so perfect for a movie that's about tennis. I feel like we don't often see her in green, which is so crazy because it looks amazing on her. And I really like that they went blonde, very different from the character, very different from what she usually looks like. So it just made the press run kind of stand out. What I really liked about this was how polished and glamorous and grown up she looked, but also still down to earth and approachable. And it's honestly one of my favorite press runs ever. So I'm going to put it in award winning. Next is Zendaya for Dune. A futuristic direction is always a lot of fun, and I feel like the Dune press tour really proved how many different styles and aesthetics she can pull off. The Mugler robot suit was honestly this huge viral moment, but I also have a soft spot for her matching outfits with Timothy. I just thought they were really cute. It might just be me, but I do feel like some of the Dune looks get a little bit repetitive at times. Like they love a two-piece crop top set and leather and draping and all of that stuff. And I feel like the outfits don't really reflect her character's journey in the movie. It's just desert, sandy, futuristic vibes. I'm very interested to see what she wears for Dune Part 3, but for now, it's going into risks were taken. Next is Zendaya for the drama. I thought the whole something old, something new, something borrowed, something blue thing was really cute, but the rest of the press run felt a little bit half-baked to me. And I will admit that it took me some time to get used to her new short haircut. It is very chic, but just different. I know that a big white wedding dress would have been very obvious for a movie about a wedding, but it doesn't change the fact that I still would have liked to see one. The drama might actually be my least favorite of all of her press runs, but still, it's going in perfectly passable. Next is Zendaya for the Odyssey. I swear, she was one-upping herself every single day for this press run. The Greek direction is a little bit obvious, but you know what? If it works, it works. I thought that all of the hair and the makeup and the dresses were just absolutely spectacular. And I think that the Angel premiere look will go down in history. And I saw this photo that was her in Shake It Up wearing an Angel outfit side by side with this. And it was just so cute to see how far she's come in like 15 years. I think I still prefer the press run for Challengers as a whole, but the Odyssey definitely has some of my favorite individual Zendaya looks. It's gonna go in award winning, just like the movie. Next is Anne Hathaway, also for the Odyssey. Her stylist Erin Walsh went in this ancient Greek maternity chic direction, which I think makes a lot of sense, not just because Anne is pregnant, but also because her character is a mother. A lot of draping, a lot of pleats, a lot of ruffles, and I noticed that she tended to wear colors that Penelope also wears in the movie, which you wouldn't really notice if you haven't seen it. I think that overall, these are very pretty looks that definitely look great for the summertime, but I will say that compared to what Zendaya wore, they are a little lackluster, but honestly, that's tough competition. So I'm going to put this in perfectly passable. Next is Anne Hathaway for The Devil Wears Prada 2. The red, white, and black color palette to match the movie just felt very obvious to me in a way that is not very fashion forward, which is pretty ironic considering it is a fashion movie. I also didn't love a lot of the silhouettes. I felt like they were trying to be eclectic and avant-garde, but instead they just looked a little bit strange. And I also felt like the fit of a lot of these outfits was a little bit off. I'm gonna put this in Hang It Up. Next is Meryl Streep for The Devil Wears Prada 2. It's actually hilarious how bad Meryl ate Anne up during this press run. This was styled by Michaela Erlanger, and I just thought this was such a great combination of workwear and glam. It doesn't feel exactly like what Miranda Priestly would wear, but you can see some of the overlap and similarities. Everything fit her impeccably. There were a lot of really bold silhouette and color choices. I also loved all of the outerwear. It was so fabulous. I'm going to put this in award winning. Next is Audrey Tautou for Coco Before Chanel. She was a very early adopter of method dressing. She did have a Chanel contract at the time, so that makes it a little bit easier to dress on theme. But even when she wasn't wearing the brand, she still stuck to their house codes like black and white and navy and a lot of like more minimalistic designs. She definitely looked pretty, but not super memorable, so I'm gonna put it in perfectly passable. Next is Margot Robbie for Barbie. Barbie is a pretty easy reference because you can just wear pink, but I like that they actually went above and beyond with their references by actually recreating real Barbie outfits. And I honestly can't even imagine how far in advance they had to plan everything. She had a lot of really great Barbie outfits. I think my favorite is probably her pink premiere dress, her black premiere dress, and then her like workwear Barbie outfit. There were supposed to be a lot more looks, but because of the SAG-AFTRA strike, the press tour was cut short. And as a result, they actually made a little coffee table book dedicated to all the looks, which I do own, but is unfortunately trapped in storage until I return to the States. So obviously, as you can tell by all of the people that I've already talked about, method dressing existed long before the Barbie press tour, but I think that just because of all of the hoopla surrounding the movie, it really brought it to the public eye. I do think it's incorrect to credit Barbie and Margot Robbie and Andrew McConnell for starting the trend, but I don't think it's incorrect to say that they popularized it, because at the end of the day, Barbie did make $1 billion, and I do think that the press tour had a lot to do with that. I'm gonna put it in award winning. Next is Margot Robbie for Wuthering Heights. This was such a strange press tour because it's clearly supposed to be edgy and fetishistic like the movie, but it's just so totally lacking in eroticism. And I don't even know how they managed to do that, because Margot Robbie is such a beautiful and sexy woman. Now, that isn't to say that I didn't like these looks, because I did, but I just feel like this direction was wrong considering the backlash the movie was getting. I feel like she did actually need to tone it down a bit just to create more of a visual contrast. But I am going to put it in risks were taken, fun was had. Next is Ariana Grande for Wicked. For the first movie, she was styled by Mimi Cottrell, and for the second, she was styled by Law Roach. Like I already said, I don't think that Law Roach does a great job when he's styling anyone other than Zendaya, and I do think that this is the case here, because he basically just copied everything that Mimi was doing, but in like a slightly less interesting way. And honestly, I didn't love all of the Audrey Hepburn cosplay. Although the looks for the first movie did get a little bit repetitive because of all of the pink chiffon ball gowns, I still thought that all of these individual looks were still very, very pretty. But for the second press tour, there isn't really anything that sticks out to me. So I think overall, I'm going to give it perfectly passable. Next is Cynthia Erivo for Wicked, which was styled by Jason Bolden. I feel like Ariana Grande's star power made a lot of people kind of look over Cynthia's outfits during the press run, but honestly, I think she had the better looks. She had a very consistent color palette, which was basically just black or green, but I feel like it didn't get repetitive because they were always playing with different styles and silhouettes and textures, so none of her looks really overlapped as much as Ariana's did. I also really respect her commitment to changing her nails every time to match the outfits, which is such a little detail, but really shows how much she cared about this character. I'm gonna put it in risks were taken. Next is Emma Stone for Poor Things. It's a more subtle case of method dressing, but if you look closely, you can kind of see those Victorian influences, like the chokers and the leg of mutton sleeves and the kind of like the peplum shape. But I do think they could have pushed it a little bit harder. Some of these dresses I loved, others I hated, especially this orange monstrosity. Just overall, a very hit or miss press tour. So I'm gonna give it passable. Next is Anya Taylor-Joy from Mario. I hated the pink leather Dior biker outfit that she wore while promoting the first movie. So I am so grateful that they went in a less tacky direction the second time around. Nothing from the Mario press tour really stood out to me, but I did like the outfit that she wore to F1. It's kind of like effortlessly edgy, which I wish she kind of gravitated towards more, because she is a weird girl. I'm afraid that this is going to go in Hang It Up. Next is Anya Taylor-Joy for Furiosa. I'll give them points for committing, but most of the time, she honestly looked a mess. All the leather just looks really uncomfortable, and none of the outfits felt like a good representation of this strong, independent, badass character. I do love the Rick Owens dress though. I'm going to say perfectly passable. Next is Timothée Chalamet for Dune, the only man in Hollywood who ever tries to method dress. So I'm gonna give him points for that. I feel like they always go in this like formal direction with like harnesses and leather and turtlenecks, and it just doesn't really work for me. I feel like I want them to go in more of like a slouchy teen boy from the future direction, because in all honesty, no matter how fancy they dress him up, he's never going to compete with Zendaya. So I would just go in like the complete opposite direction. I'm going to say Hang It Up. Next is Timothée Chalamet in A Complete Unknown. I thought that the Bob Dylan cosplay was so hilarious, and I loved every moment of it. I like that they pulled from various Bob Dylan eras, from like the bolo ties to the scarves. It just created a lot of variation, and I also felt like the silhouettes really suited Timothy's frame. I can acknowledge that these aren't exactly the hottest looks, which might be disappointing for the Timothy fangirls, but I think that considering the movie, it makes a lot of sense. So I'm going to put this in risks were taken. Next is Hunter Schafer for The Hunger Games, styled by Dara. This isn't recreating what her character is wearing in the movie, but she's definitely dressed like a capital citizen. I love all the fun silhouettes, the texture, the color. Risks were taken. Next is Zoe Deutsch for Something from Tiffany's. Most of the time, it's only the big blockbusters that pull out all of the stops for the press tours, so I can respect that she decided to method dress for a random rom-com. She basically only went in two directions, which was either wearing Tiffany blue or wearing a little black dress as an ode to Holly Golightly. And as a result, it's a very wearable press run. Like, I could imagine basically any young working professional in New York liking and wearing these outfits. But even with all that said, it is very safe, so I'm going to put it in perfectly passable. Next is Lindsay Lohan for Freakier Friday. She was less referencing Freaky Friday and more so her entire career as a child/teen actor. The looks for the day-to-day were pretty cute, but I really appreciate the purple update of her Freaky Friday dress. Just absolutely stunning. But overall, nothing is really wowing me. Perfectly passable. Next is Lupita Nyong'o in Queen of Katwe. This movie completely slipped under my radar when it first came out, which is a shame because Lupita was so committed to promoting it. She paid tribute to the story by incorporating a lot of African prints and of course having a lot of these really beautiful headscarves. I love all the color and the patterns, and I love how they had fun with all of these different silhouettes and styles. Like some days she wore pants, other days bodycons, other days sundresses. And it was just a really beautiful and colorful press run, and I'm going to put this in award winning. Next is Cara Delevingne for Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets. So as someone who doesn't have the skull shape for a buzz cut, I really loved her shaved head. I thought that it was really chic and futuristic and cool and created this really fun juxtaposition to the character that she was playing. She is a model, so obviously she knows how to work a piece of clothing. And I feel like on paper, everything looked good, but it didn't really do it for me. At least none of the suits and little mini dresses did. I'm gonna put this in passable. Next is Aaliyah Bhatt for Gangubai Kathiawadi. She exclusively wore white as a reference to the character, and although I like the idea behind that, I felt like there wasn't enough variation to make it interesting. Specifically with the saris, I do feel like a lot of them looked very similar to one another, and I just feel like they could have played around more with silhouette or incorporating little bits of other colors or something like that. I'm afraid I'm going to have to put this in Hang It Up. Next is Blake Lively for A Simple Favor. I actually loved all of the suits that she wore while promoting the first movie because it proved that every man in Hollywood doesn't really have an excuse to show up to an award show in a plain black suit, because there were so many different fabrics and silhouettes and styles that you can choose from. Blake had a skinny leg, a wide leg, she wore velvet and sheer, and basically every color under the rainbow. Some of these suits looked way better than others, but I can respect the commitment to the bit. But the second movie is where they've lost me. They've definitely gone in the same direction as the character in the sequel, which is more bizarre and kind of random. And I just felt like it wasn't a very cohesive look. So I'm afraid that that really brings down my feelings towards A Simple Favor. I'm gonna put this in Get a New Stylist. And last is Blake Lively for It Ends With Us. She wasn't the public's favorite person while promoting this movie, and I feel like her outfits were received really poorly as a result. Personally, I think that it was a cohesive press tour, and a lot of the outfits were really fun and colorful and looked good on her, but unfortunately, that was part of the problem. Wearing your florals doesn't really work as a tagline when the movie is about domestic violence. So I just feel like as a whole, method dressing just was not an appropriate marketing strategy for this particular movie. So I'm going to have to say, hang it up. Overall, Law Roach's work with Zendaya is hands down the best method dressing that we see. But I also think that Michaela Erlanger's work is pretty solid too. She just doesn't have as active of a client list. I definitely think that the popularity of method dressing has turned some people against it, but I don't think that there's any denying that it's a really powerful marketing tool. And I am looking forward to the looks that we'll continue to get in the future. But that's it for this video, and I will see you next time. Bye!